My name's Stephen Wolinsky, and as a follow-up to DVD number 1, which is I Am That I Am, Experiencing the Teachings of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, comes the second DVD, Post-Deconstruction, The Death of the I, Nirvana as Extinction. In order to look at all of this, which leads us to the post-deconstruction understanding, we're going to use and graft together 2,500 years of philosophy, science, Buddhism, Vedanta, philosophy, and linguistics. Graft them all together and take the creme de la creme of all of them so that we can deconstruct the sense of I. The sense of I is that which psychology and spirituality are entirely based. Because if there was no I, there would be nothing to get rid of, nothing to heal, nothing to transform, nothing to be gotten rid of. There would be no I. And if there were no I, be no psychology and no spirituality. So if we can demonstrate that there actually is no I, all of these systems particularly collapse. Neuroscience in the brain, as we're referring it to, specifically relates to the brain and the nervous system and how the nervous system works and organizes, and how that specifically relates to spirituality and finding out who you are. So first, let's go back to DVD number 1 and talk about the word abstraction. The nervous system abstracts. It omits billions and billions of stimuli and extracts out only a small amount. That abstraction process was first noted in 1933 in a book called Science and Sanity by Alfred Korzybski. Korzybski actually laid out what he called the structural differential, which still stands today. The nervous system goes through particular modes, particular ways of abstracting, and from that omission process, you get a solid world and an I that perceives that world. So for example, sensation and an abstraction of sensation. You have sensation, the nervous system omits lots of sensation, and from that sensation or condensed sensation is a sense of thought. Thought is condensed sensation. The sensation then produces what we call I. The I then labels objects in its perceptual apparatus and then describes them. Through each one of these abstracted steps, more and more information is omitted, and hence more of, in quotes, reality and the emptiness is gone. But the key piece to remember is that the I and what you call you, a person, a self, a being, arises through this omission and selecting out process in time. That means that the I and the perception that you have arises after the action and event have already occurred. That means that everything that you see has already occurred. In fact, everything that you see is already in past time. The illusion is that you're seeing something or can be in quotes, present time. So this I, which you call I or a self or a being, arises through a biochemical reaction in the brain. If you did not have this biochemical reaction going on in the brain, no I would arise, and you would basically be Terry Schiavo. What that means is that you would just be sitting there with no awareness of self, no awareness of person, no awareness of beingness. All of that arises through a chemical reaction. Now, since it arises through a chemical reaction, the illusion that there's an I that goes on, that an I existed before the chemical reaction, all of that is an illusion. The I arises after the action and event have already occurred. Now, recently, a lot of people have thought that the witness or the observer or the wearer or the knower somehow does not occur as like a biochemical reaction. The fact is that the witness, the knower, the observer, all of these things occur also through a biochemical reaction in the brain. If the brain did not have the appropriate fluids and information passing through it on a liquid level, then the I would not even appear, let alone a witness or an observer. So to imagine witnessing is anything other than biochemical illusion. Now, Gurdjieff said that the world is upside down. What he meant by the world is upside down is that the illusion is that I am doing something in present time. Just to give an example, let's suppose I'm sitting here, and the illusion is I have a thought called, I want to get a drink of water. Then I get up, get a drink of water. The illusion is that the I want to have a drink of water arose, and that's the reason I got up and got a glass of water. But the fact of the matter is that I got up and did that, and then the thought arose called, I want to have a drink of water. The thought called, I want to have a drink of water, arose after the action and event have already begun to happen. The thought, it's backwards. We perceive it as the thought comes before the action. Actually, the thought comes with and just after the action, and hence justifies the action. If we take on a neurological level the idea that all the fluids in the brain come together in a biochemical reaction and an I arises. Now, this I, which is an abstracted representation of chemicals, come together. In other words, chemicals come together and all of a sudden an I appears. How can an I that comes together by chemicals that arises after the action and event have already occurred have free will, let alone doership or choosership or authorship? We have to appreciate in this is that a key thing in yoga, if we were to go, what is yoga's greatest hits? One of yoga's most important and greatest hits is, I am not the doer. Or, you are not the doer. There is no doer. Why is there no doer? There is no doer, not the doer, because the I that thinks it does arises after the action and event have already occurred. So, as Gurdjieff said, the world is upside down. Think I have the thoughts and I have volition and action, when actually all of the idea of volition and the thoughts and the justification for action and movement arise after the action has already occurred, past time. Now, if we looked at it biochemically, let's take the example of we have oxygen. So in other words, we have the thought called I. Prior to the thought called I, we have fluids. Prior to the fluids, we have chemicals. We have oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, potassium, the basic chemicals that make up the human body. Let's take it very simply. If we have oxygen, oxygen doesn't say, I am now going to choose merge with hydrogen and I'm going to form water. Obviously, because oxygen does not have a cerebral cortex, it does not produce thoughts, it does not have volition and action. So first, the fluids, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, potassium, come together as they come together. From that, then an I arises, which then thinks it has volition. But if you break it down, prior to, these fluids had no volition. These fluids arose and then the I appears. The I then begins to fantasize and imagine and abstract that it did something, that it has a past, it has a present, it has a future, it has a mission, that it has lessons to learn and ideas of its own, when in fact it arises after the action event have already occurred.